welcome to the Oxygen Addict Triathlon Podcast. We're brought to you every week by our sponsors, We Are Tribe.co.
Natural sports nutrition delivered direct to you. You can get a free trial pack of 6 delicious energy bars, trail mix, recovery bars and shakes for just £1 by using the code OxygenAddict1.
We're also brought to you We're brought to you by Team Oxygen Addict at team.oxygenaddict.com. That was smooth, wasn't it?
The very smooth online triathlon coaching, providing you with a personalised triathlon training plan, coaching advice and guidance from your coach Rob Wilby, group video coaching calls, exclusive member discounts and a private Facebook group to chat to your supportive teammates and your coach.
Fueledbycake.com.
That's my charity cake recipe book featuring Vicky Holland, Emma Pooley, Chrissy Wellington, Laura Siddle and loads more. It's only £10 and all proceeds go to charity.
And finally, a big thanks to our patrons
who support the show with a monthly donation. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you very, very much. And hello, everybody, and welcome to the first official show of 2018. I hope you're all fantastic, fan-dabby-dozy. I guess technically we've had a show out already, haven't we? But it was a best-of show, wasn't it?
It was a best-of show, whereas this is the best of Rob back on it.
This is the best you and I can come up with on a Monday night. Oh, how was your Christmas and New Year, Hals? What have you been up to?
Yeah, busy, but good. Did both sets of families and escaped to the Lake District for a few nights, Rob, and stayed in a hobbit hole.
Oh, a hobbit hole! That sounds awesome.
It was amazing.
Was it freezing?
No, it was a heated hobbit hole.
Oh, wow, these hobbits are getting high tech these days.
I know. It was great, and there was even a nice little bar with an open fire on the campsite.
Oh, I've got to love that.
It was ace. So we went up like Blencathra in the snow and did some winter walking up there. At that point, yes, I did freeze, and some really good walks, and it was beautiful. And we had that window of really, really nice weather between sort of Christmas and the beginning of the New Year bit, when it was actually clear blue skies, really, really cold, but clear blue skies, and there'd been a dusting of snow. So there was snow on the hilltops and I'd call them hilltops in the Lake District, but it didn't affect us. Whereas I think a few days later it would have affected us.
Oh, it's just, you can't beat it when it's like that. When you've got clear blue skies in the Lake District in the winter, it's just magnificent, isn't it?
Yeah, that was what I had dreamed. I thought, imagine if it was like that. And then when it actually was, I was like, I have to pinch myself.
Happy Christmas to you. You've always been a good girl this year.
It was great. It was really cool. Was yours good?
Well, herein lies a story. Yes, it was great, with the caveat of, do you remember when I sniffed and sneezed at the end of that last recording we did?
Yeah. A lot of people picked me up on that, Rob, for saying, Rob, stop sniffing.
Did you really?
Oh, yeah. Some people said, you told him.
Give him a break kind of way.
No, not a give him a break. No, I love the fact you actually said, Rob, stop sniffing.
Oh, got you. Well, all these people I'm hopefully about to feel bad because I came down with the most hideous dose of illness the next day, and I was sick for the whole 2 weeks. I got a cough and a cold, and then I got proper bronchitis and a chest infection.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was beastly. I had a respite for a day from Christmas Eve through to Christmas Day, and I felt okay. And then I just relapsed again horribly. So much so, do you remember I was going to go to Fuerte?
Yeah.
Couldn't go.
Really?
Too sick. Yeah, it was proper lying in bed, hallucinating, sweating through the bed sheets. It was just awful. Full course of antibiotics, and I didn't start feeling right again until about the 4th of January. So I just didn't go away for the first time ever. I just didn't go on the holiday and was like, I wonder if they were like reading over the tannoy. Mr. Wilby, please come to gate 7.
Gutted.
Yeah, so I had to go to the GP and get antibiotics, get a form signed and try and do travel insurance and get my money. It's a horror show.
You do sound a lot more normal now.
I'm
you
probably
sound
I'm probably
quite
90% right. I say I don't think I'm right yet, which is weird, isn't it? Like 3 weeks on, it's pretty unusual for. Mind you, that's what happens, I guess, with a chest infection when you're properly ill.
Yeah,
it takes a proper time to get rid of it, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of people. You are not the first person to tell me that they have been ill over Christmas. A lot of people have been in in that. So that's no good.
The GP that I saw, I walked in and he literally just said, "Let me guess, you've got a chest infection." I was like, impressive.
So,
It was like the 10th person that morning to come in with a chest infection. So yeah, bizarre. Anyway, I hope everybody else out there has had a happier and healthier Christmas and New Year than I had.
Oh,
yeah. It's all good though.
Yeah, all good. Here's to better health, Rob, in 2018.
I'll tell you what, mate, it makes you appreciate the last few days I've been walking around like skipping and dancing and singing and being like, I just feel normal. And, that's just great, having a laugh and a jolly. And I've just been half human for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Well, no, that was, can you remember, I don't know, between sort of September and December, I came down with something and it was similar. You just don't feel, it was the first time that just something got me. And yeah, I really did not feel human. Rob, I want to tell everyone what's coming up on this week's show. And our interview of the week this week is with the Australian Cam Wurf, a former rower turned pro cyclist, turned bike course record holder at Kona. You would have seen him being amazing on the bike in Kona if you watched that, and then leading out of T2. So we've got a really good interview with Cam Wurf, who is a training partner of Chris Froome as well, so he talks all about that. So yeah, cracking interview for you, and we've got some results coming up and Coach's Couch. So basically we're back, aren't we?
We're back. We're hitting the ground running, aren't we?
Well, don't know, but yeah.
Do you know, mate, fair play to you. The interview with Cam Wurf is brilliant. I had a real good laugh listening to that. He's a top guy, isn't he?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I did really enjoy chatting to him and hearing his tales of crazy bike rides through Tasmania and everything else, like all the training and, the time rowing and the time as a pro cyclist and then taking up triathlon. Yeah, cracking interview. So enjoy.
It is indeed. All right, should we jump in with a bit of results then from over the Christmas period?
Yes, they are sponsored by Tribe.
Yep, you can get a free trial pack of 6 delicious energy bars, trail mix recovery bars and shakes for just £1 using the code OxygenAddict1. So go to wearetribe.co for that. And this week we're bringing news of a new segment on the show where I'm really happy to announce this actually, the Tribe Triathlete of the Month Award. The award is going to recognise achievement amongst our podcast listener audience, and we need your help, listeners, to nominate potential winners. You can nominate a training partner, a friend, a clubmate, a family member, or even yourself. They don't even need to be a listener of the show, although hopefully they'll become one, right? We want the award to recognise and reward people who've achieved more than they thought they could. And this could be anything from completing the first club swim session all the way to qualifying for Kona and everything in between. We're happy for the award to recognise past achievements as well, because there's probably not a huge amount of racing achievements happening at the moment. So if you've got a friend who's achieved something amazing during the last season, you can let us know, and me and Hells are going to make the decision. To nominate a potential winner, all you've got to do is email helen@oxygenaddict.com with a couple of paragraphs about the person and their achievement, and the winner of each month's award will be revealed in the last show of each calendar month. And the prize, Hells, do you want to tell us what the prize is?
Yep, so we're really pleased that Tribe have agreed to sponsor the award, and they're going to provide a really cool prize for the winner each month. So it's going to be a Tribe booster pack containing 18 products from across the whole Tribe range. So you get 4 Infinity bars, 4 Blaze trail bars, 5 recovery bars, 5 protein recovery shakes, and a Tribe t-shirt.
Awesome stuff. So that email address again to nominate people for this is helen@oxygenaddict.com, and the nominations need to be received by us by the 25th of each month. So we'll mention this every week as we go along to remind you to send some nominations in, and we'll be announcing the winner on the last show of each calendar month, as it were. Jolly good, right?
Very good. Very, very good. And blooming, as I've said before, Rob, those Tribe bars got me through my ride in Italy. Anyway, let's crack on. There are not a whole load of results going on, but there was quite a lot of running, wasn't there? And Ali Brownlee. Ali Brownlee was racing the normal race, Rob. I know we've said this a few years. We've talked about it a couple of years, because basically, it was the 24th Old Lang Syne Fell Run, and Ali Brownlee won it. He didn't run last year. He didn't do it in 2015. He won it in 2014. And I love it. If you go back to 2005, he was fifth and Johnny was 21st.
The thing that cracked me up is he posted the thing on his Twitter, like first run back on the 16th of December. And he's legging it. He's absolutely. I don't know whether that's his jogging pace, if he just jogs along at 4.5 minute miles. But pretty good to come back from being injured, first run back on the 16th, and then win the Old Lang Syne Fell race on the 31st, right?
Oh, yeah. If only, hey?
Yeah.
If only.
I don't think my comeback from illness is going to be that successful.
Honestly. But yeah, he had a hip operation, didn't he? After missing out the second half of the season. So it's brilliant that Ali is back, and obviously he is aiming to defend his title at the Commonwealth Games in Gold Coast in April.
He sure is. A couple of other bits and bobs from run races. We had Johnny Brownlee finish second in the Ribble Valley 10K, and I think it was a shade under 30 minutes, wasn't he, if I remember rightly? I got that right. Yeah, 5 seconds under 30 minutes. And Beth Potter did a 30-second PB to finish second as well with 33 minutes flat, which is blooming impressive running, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. She, Laurel Waitman, got the win. But yeah, she's brilliant. It's amazing, isn't it? 33 flat. So yeah, that's awesome. And then Mark Buckingham ran the San Silvestre 10K in Barcelona, which looks like a very, very cool race, Rob. I watched his little video.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, it looks very, very good. So you start at like 5:30 as the sun goes down, and then basically you cross the line and you're there in Barcelona ready to party for New Year's Eve.
Fairly serious standard of running as well, with the winner in 28:30. Mark did 31:30 and only got 28th place with 31:30. It's like running in the 80s, isn't it?
I know, really mad. Wow.
Cracking stuff.
There we go. So yeah, that's sort of some of the results that we've seen. Not obviously loads of racing quite yet, but we will keep you updated as and when things happen as the season sort of starts getting underway a little bit more.
To keep an eye on what's going on, and as always, listeners, if you see or hear of anything going on, fire us over something either on Twitter or Facebook. That'd help us out greatly, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. So, Rob, Coach's Couch, which is sponsored by Team Oxygen Addict.
Yep, you can get a 2-week sample training plan for £1. Just email help@oxygenaddict.com and I will send you details and a link and all that stuff through. So if you want to kick off your New Year training, but you're not exactly sure where to start with structuring your program, that might help you out. And the question this week is a bit of a cheat, this one, Hells. It's not from a single person, but it's a combination from a couple of people who have put messages in the Team Oxygen Addict Facebook group over the past couple of weeks. And I thought, given the weather, it might be a good thing for us to talk about.
Yep. So the question is, I'm going to be doing my first 70.3 this summer, and I really want to get in my long ride at the weekend, but it's below freezing and the roads aren't safe. I have so been there, Robert, with this question. Shall I just ride for 3 hours on the turbo instead? I think I've asked that question many times. Well, no, I haven't asked it many times. I've asked it once or twice. It's like, oh, anyway, here's the answer.
Yeah, you can ask it once and then go, oh, thank the Lord for that. Right, so like the first thing we've got to say about turbo training is the good thing about it, because I know there's lots of things people are going to put on the bad things about it list. The good thing about it is it's incredibly efficient at getting you fit in a shorter period of time. Basically, because there's no downhills, there's no freewheeling, there's no sitting in behind somebody. So all the time that you spend riding is going to be spent getting you fit. And the good news from that is, although, I mean, you can just jump on the turbo and ride for 3 hours and it'll be a really good workout, but you probably won't ever want to do it again. That's the thing with it. And if you're faced with, what are we now? The start of January, we might realistically have 8 more weeks of really cold weekends, maybe 10 more weeks of really cold weekends that are like not really safe to ride outside. You certainly won't want to be doing that every weekend unless you're kind of the mindset of Lionel Sanders. So what I say to all the guys that I coach is, if you can get outdoors to ride once every 3 weeks or even once every 4 weeks and get your sort of your 3-hour ride in outdoors, then great. The other rides that you do at the weekend, they don't have to be more than about 90 minutes. Because I think, and I've got no evidence to support this, but I think that about a 90-minute ride indoors probably equates to about 2.5 hours worth of fitness outdoors. And most people can do 90 minutes if they use a combination of something like Zwift or watching films or watching music or a combination of all of them. And 90 minutes once a week is doable as long as you don't try and do it 3 times a week. And you can get yourself plenty fit during January and February, building up to a summertime race by doing that. Now, my top tip here is to not just try and ride solidly for 90 minutes, but try and break your ride up into chunks. So any kind of interval is good, where you're going a bit harder than you're comfortable at and then a bit easier than you're comfortable at. If you're a little bit more experienced and you've got a heart rate monitor or a power meter, I think the ideal Sunday ride type turbo session is to do your intervals at sweet spot. So we're talking 90% of FTP or kind of mid to top of zone 3 heart rate. And that's going to really give you a great bang for your buck in terms of you'll feel like you're working, but you're not going to absolutely destroy yourself. And you can probably start with doing, 3 to 5 minutes worth of interval and then a couple of minutes of recovery and build up until your sweet spot effort is, say 10 minutes worth of sweet spot with a few minutes of recovery. And as your fitness increases and your ability to endure it increases, obviously you can do a bit more work and need a little bit less recovery. So you can get a huge amount of training stress in your body in a relatively short amount of time. So good news, Hells, you don't need to be on that turbo trainer for 3 hours, though if you do, I salute you.
Well, Rob, I promised at some point in December that I would do a turbo session, and I didn't necessarily lie, but I thought I would get one in, and then I didn't. Anyway, it was maybe January the 2nd. I got on the turbo. We had a turbo date in the garage.
You and your man had a turbo date.
Yeah. So now, we did do a double turbo.
Now there's more to this story, isn't there, Helen?
Well, I don't know.
I do, because I've heard the story. What else happened during that turbo session?
Oh, was that my turbo was perhaps not actually attached at the back and my bike kind of flew off and I kind of flew off with it?
I just had to ask you about this because your man made notes about this in his Training Peaks account and I was like, I've got to ask Helen. So what happened? You were whizzing along in the turbo and it wasn't properly attached and all of a sudden back wheel hits the ground and you get ejected through the garage door.
That sounds a little bit more dramatic than it was. Basically, I'm such a tit. So, it was not attached properly at the back, and so I was doing the same workout that Rich was doing, which was like a 5-minute, 6 lots of 5-minute efforts at like horrible effort.
Hard.
Yeah, and it must have been effort number 5, I think. And suddenly I was just like, woo! And And
the bike just shot off the front of the turbo.
No, it didn't fall off. No, it didn't shoot off the front. It obviously fell off the back.
Oh,
so
right.
I kind of fell. Yeah. So
you just kind of fell over.
Well, no, I got thrown off to the side, but thankfully we've got a load of shelves. So I fell into the shelves.
I had this image of you getting launched forward.
No, it wasn't like a catapult.
But one of my son's Micro Machines toys where you'd like rev them up and then press the go button.
Oh yeah, well, kind of, but no, it wasn't quite so dramatic as being catapulted through the garage, which would have been quite horrendous. No.
Oh dear, it would have been awful.
But anyway, I did it, and
well done.
It was great. It was great.
Fun.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was good to be back on the turbo.
How many
I even went back on it. I went back on it on yesterday.
Wow, good stuff.
Yeah, double whammy. Yeah, thanks.
Loving it, mate.
There we go. Right, shall we hear from a more sensible person called Cam Wurf?
Let's hear from our interview of the week with Cam Wurf. Yeah, introduce us, Hells. Introduce away.
Well, I don't think there needs to be a whole load more introduction, Rob, because
the man's a legend, basically, after breaking the bike course record at Kona.
Bike course record at Kona, winner of Ironman Wales. He looked very comfortable there, and sealed his spot at Kona with second at Ironman Sweden in Kalmar. Former pro cyclist, former world champion rower as well. So yeah, a lot to talk about whilst talking to Cam Wurf. Cam Wurf, hello and welcome to the Oxygen Addict Triathlon podcast. How's it going?
Yeah, well, it's a very fitting name because after a long season, Ellen, I actually do feel like an oxygen addict, trying to get as much back into my body as possible. It's been it's been quite a year, so thanks for having me on.
Pleasure. Aren't you up to like, I don't know, were you on the start line of 7 Ironmans?
Eight,
Eight, start
actually,
line of 8.
and
Okay.
yeah, so I obviously I came home for Bustleton on the weekend and I had huge expectations for a grand finale to the year. I was really disappointed with Kona with how I wasn't able to finish off with a strong run, so kind of wanted to go out and prove a point. And yeah, but learnt I kind of burnt the candle at both ends. I had a lot of stuff lined up after Kona and travelled here, there, and everywhere, and got home, a bit flat and. Still lined up on the weekend, and then they cancelled the swim, so that was already meant there was no chance to go for that 740 world record, which I thought was potential to have a crack at. I figured if I could ride 4 hours, I'd just have to run 250. Not that I've ever done that before, but I was at least going to try.
Yep.
And yeah, the cancelled swim obviously made a bit of a dampener on it. Anyway, I thought, oh well, just make the best of it, try and break 4 hours on the bike, and got on the bike, and I was going really well until about 140k. I think my average speed was 45 and a half or a bit above, and yeah, and then my body just literally gave up on me. I before I knew it, I can't really remember what happened, but I just stopped and pulled over, and yeah, was just driving the porcelain bus for a few minutes on the side of the road, but I just was completely spent. But in hindsight, I noticed I didn't feel right, and I tried to, but I didn't back off. I thought, bugger that, I'm here for one reason, so I just went for it, and yeah, and I wasn't in the condition to go for it, and so that was the end of a very unspectacular end to a very adventurous year.
Visiting the porcelain, having a word with the porcelain gods.
Yeah, I've never had that. I mean, I've never had to get off my bike before. I mean, occasionally you'll have a bit of a, uncomfortable moment in your mouth, and it's a good indicator generally to, just back it off a fraction. But there was no warning. Literally the brakes were on and I was off the bike, and yeah, and down I went. So it is what it is. One thing that I'll take from it is at least I was able to push myself literally to the edge, which is something I haven't done all year. I've always been thinking about the next race and the next race, and even during a race thinking, okay, I'm going to have to race again. So planning on that and saving energy. And this one I knew there was no more, so it was just all or nothing. And yeah, I gave it my all and I came back with nothing. So I have to be better prepared next time.
You mentioned the world record. Does Brazil appeal for next season purely to try to get that world record?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's where Tim said it. I mean, that was a spectacular performance with his run and also his bike when you compare it to how fast he rode compared to everyone else. So I'm not sure how fast the bike course is, because really, I mean, I'm not going to run a 240 like Tim, certainly not in the next 12 months. But I think I can ride close to 4 hours, and I think I maybe can run close to 250. So if I'll certainly study Brazil and have a look at it. But it was more that it's not that that's an objective for me. I'm realistic. I'm nowhere near that level of athlete yet. It was just in my mind. It seemed possible given there was potentially a course there where 4 hours was possible on the bike, even if it was 4:02, 4:03. And then once you've ridden that quick, I mean, it's a bit like Froome going for the Grand Slam, the Grand Tours. He couldn't even think about winning the Vuelta and the Tour until he'd won the Tour. Yep. And now he can think about winning the Giro because he's won the Vuelta. And then once he's won the Giro, then he can think about the Giro Tour double. And then who knows, maybe he'll think about all three. And I really had the same plan for Sunday. I'm not cocky and arrogant to think that I'm ready to go out and break the world record. In my mind, it was simply, look, I know I can swim sub 48 minutes. I've done that in Wales recently in a wetsuit. I know I can ride close to 4 hours because I rode 4:04 last year in Arizona. And if I can do both of those, then I know I can run a half marathon in 1:20, 1:25. So I'll just try and see if I can run two of them, two halves. And so that was as far as it went in my mind. It's not an objective at this stage. The objective is to to go back to Kona and put together a complete race and go as fast as possible there. But I guarantee if I do find another fast course, it'll definitely become the objective for that day.
We want to know what was going through your mind as you ran out of T2 in the lead at Kona.
Yeah, I felt great. I mean, everything had gone perfectly not to plan, and then I'd got everything back on plan. I would have liked a larger lead, but I'd had a really good ride. Felt really comfortable, and honestly, I just couldn't wait to get off the bike, because when you're on the bike, and that being the crucial point of part of my race, to set things up, that means if something goes wrong there, you really can ruin your race. So at the last kilometres, I just can't wait to get my running shoes on. I just can't wait to get my running shoes on. I'm in more control there. And, and coming out, it was just the most incredible feeling. Getting off my bike, I've always watched the BBC coverage every year, NBC, sorry, and just been, fascinated by, particularly, when the first cyclists get off into transition and they run. And I remember thinking, God, imagine how cool that would be to come to an empty transition in Kona, like the biggest of them all. And then there I was, and it was funny, the day before at the pro briefing, they'd said, and everyone had some issues in the past with people literally jumping off their bikes and throwing them. Like, we need everyone to be really, gentle and just casually pass it to the volunteers. And so I was like, yeah, I remember listening to it. Gosh, I came into that transition so hot. Like, I didn't touch my brakes all the way back from Howie, and I just jumped off that thing and launched it into some poor volunteer. So I have to apologise to whoever that person is. They're not still bad and bruised from that. But
you literally throwing your bike at them.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily throw it. I just had a beautiful dismount. It was just effortless. Like, I managed to maintain the momentum of the bike and hit the ground running. Pardon the pun, and just running around that transition was so eerie. I mean, it was deathly quiet. There was a helicopter above, and it's a bloody long way in bare feet. I was like, I got halfway around, like, damn, do I have to run around the whole way? Like, there's no bikes here. Can't I cut through the middle? This is ridiculous. And I think I actually had the fastest transition out of anyone as well through there. I had my shoes on in the flash, and I just couldn't wait to get out on that run course and see what the next part of the race would bring me, because I really didn't know. I knew I'd trained. I knew I could run 3 hours, and I really wanted to see if I could go faster than that. So I was honestly chomping at the bit to get out there and run. And it was just incredible, those first couple of miles heading through town and out of town, and knowing that my lead was going out. I had a few cries saying, you're extending your lead. So I don't know, Lionel must have taken a while in transition, and same with Sebi and Jan, and I was actually taking time away from them at the start. So it was pretty cool moment to be so much a part of the race at that point in time.
And when you were passed on the run, did you know at that point, right, that's it, my sort of, my chance of getting on that podium's over?
Yeah, well, I at that point when Lionel passed me, I kept looking back, because I was like, where the hell is he? I mean, I raced him in Arizona last year, and he was able to match me on the bike. And at that point, I'd torn my calf muscle halfway through last year, so I hadn't run for about 5 months. Like, literally, I had not run a single step. And I only went to Arizona to test my my swim on my bike, and it ended up being pretty good. But because I was leading, I thought, well, I may as well just sort of see if I can shuffle through a marathon. So I literally did shuffle through a marathon. I think I averaged 5-minute K pace. I did a 3.5-hour marathon. And but Lionel caught that 2 minutes, or however much it was, 2 or 3 minutes lead I had on him. He caught me within 2K, 3K,
oh my God,
and went past me like I was standing still. So I was expecting, him to pass me within the first kilometre or two, but it wasn't until about the 5th or 6K, 7K, that he finally came past. And I was at that point, I thought, well, wait a minute, like, these guys aren't catching me easily. And I was actually trying to slow down as much as possible and remain calm, because, I knew it was still a long way to go, and I knew I was running quick, and I'd worked really hard on my technique, and perceived effort-wise, I didn't feel like I was trying any harder than, when I'd run 3 hours, but I was running quicker than that. So I still believed I was a chance, and I said to myself, right, you got to stay in this race until you're outside of the top 5, And then, if you're out of the top 5, then, well, you're probably not going to get on the podium. So have a long, hard think about whether you want to kill yourself for a top 10. And I think James Cunnama passed me. Yeah, he passed me right at the top of Killarney. And at that point, the fact that I dropped my foot on my bike and I probably got nutrition, hydration really wrong. I was really starting to get warm. I was really hot. I was still running pretty well, but I was really feeling uncomfortable, and I really felt like I needed to slow down in some aid stations and get back on top of it. And he went past, and then obviously shortly after that, Patrick and Dave, went past as well, and that's when I realised, look, you're not going to get on the podium today, so learn from this and save your bullets for next time. So I just tried to enjoy the last. Was sort of the last, I guess, 20k of the run. And I was surprised to finish 17th. I had no idea what position I was in. I knew when I was in the energy lab, I was like, wait a minute, there's not many people down here. I must be too far behind. And that was really interesting. I was literally halfway down the energy lab when Lionel came out. And, he was only a couple of k up the road ahead of me, 3k up the road ahead of me. So, I just sort of kept shuffling along, and that was where I ended up.
And how does finishing 17th at Kona compared to finishing second at Kalmar to qualify for Kona?
Yeah, Kalmar for sure still remains the best moment of the year and probably of my sporting career, to be honest. At the start of the year when we sat down and set out this goal, of getting to Kona, obviously I was full of excitement and also positivity. I thought it'd be a piece of cake, and went to South Africa and got my hand, backside handed to me by all the guys there, and then went to Cairns and made a little bit of an improvement, but was still well off the mark, and then obviously to Europe and getting sick and run down and having the reality checks of what can happen in a season in both Nice and Zurich. So to go to Kalmar, then I had a week training camp with Chris. Chris and I went straight to Chatel after he went after the tour. Obviously, I went straight after Zurich, and we trained our asses off for a couple of weeks as he was getting ready for the Vuelta and me for Kalmar. And I think to go there after that, like after being with him for that week and Tim, our coach, and and Nick, our the carer and the massages, and then we had our partners there, and so many people put so much effort into what you're doing. I went there with just also that I just can't let all these people down. It was the last chance, and I really had to stand up and deliver. But I had to stand up and deliver by doing something that even I didn't really believe I could do, which was run 3 hours, or run well. And I got a bad start in the swim that day, uncharacteristically just had a bad swim and was behind the 8 ball. Had a good ride, but obviously didn't have the lead that I thought I'd like to be comfortable that I could be in that top 2. And so just that whole run, I was just so focused on making sure I didn't, end up third. And I had, and I knew that if I could run a good run, then I'd be able to do that. And so crossing that line was, as far as a sporting thing goes, just with everything that went on, leading into it, and that we'd set out at the start of the year, and that was the last chance. That was one of the really first times that I'd been able to really, really deliver when it mattered, and taught me a lot about myself. And and Froomey just said to me just before I went, he just said, look, you just got to go and do what you're capable of doing, and you're going to be fine. Sounds as stupid and simple as that, he said, just do your own thing. Like, you're more than capable of riding that quick, and you can definitely run that quick. Just go and do it. And still that feeling of going to do it. And when you get selected for your country in rowing or in cycling, there's some results there, and obviously you've proven you're better than your countrymen, and you achieve, selection, and that's all really great. But in Ironman, to get to Kona, you have to be in the top 50 in the world. And it doesn't matter if you're from, Uruguay or Iraq or Australia or America or Great Britain. You got to be in the top 50 or you're not going. And so I couldn't rely on being, oh, he's got potentially, like I probably was with cycling, let's give him a chance, let's give him some experience at the highest level, blah, blah, blah. No, you had to prove that you earned your spot on the line. And that's also something I'd never really had to do before. And so to be able to do that was a huge turning point for me as a sportsman.
What's Chris Froome like as a training buddy when you're focusing on Ironman and he was more focusing on the cycling side of things?
Well, so I think Sky, they're always evolving. I mean, they're not interested. I think they've shown with now Chris, going for the Giro, like winning 5. I mean, other guys have won 5 tours. But they're trying to do it in a different way. So they're always trying to stay a step ahead, and everyone thinks it's a bit like, the best athletes, like say Floyd Mayweather in boxing. Everyone thinks they've figured him out, but then he comes out and beats you in a different way. So Chris, I mean, Tim Kerrison's just a genius. The UK knows him from swimming, and now he's obviously know him also as the Sky head of Sky, high performance, and before that I knew him from rowing, coaching world championship winning rowing crews. So. You're talking about a man that is just steps ahead of the game. And so I think Chris, if you do the same thing all the time, I'm sure it can get a bit mundane. And I think Tim, there was a bit of a method to his madness in bringing me in to train with Chris, because Chris is just very interested to learn about anything. And I guess in triathlon, we're learning a huge amount about nutrition. Because I'm on my own, we've been able to test a lot of different equipment. We've been able to test a lot of different parts that you put on your bike to make it go, make it more efficient, chains and bearings, wheels, and all sorts of different things. And Chris is just fascinated by all that stuff. So we can talk about all these different things that he just isn't used to being able to talk to, cyclists about. And not only that, but in training, I mean, Tim will, stop us at the end of a 5-hour ride and take us on we've done a 21K trail run after a 5-hour ride, and Chris has done it as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then also, even in Chatel during the year, like we'd be riding along and we'd always have my running shoes and Chris's too, but he wouldn't run during the year, but they were there just in case, and our swimming gear in the car. And, Tim would stop us at a lake and he'd say, righto, Wurf, you got to go for a swim. Chris, you can go and ride up that mountain, or you can go and swim with him. And Chris would say, oh, okay, I'll swim. So he'd come swimming with me as well. And the next thing we'd be swimming around a lake. So I think, I'm certainly, initially I was brought in to train with Chris, but, I'm sure he's getting something out of it too. He's had obviously the best year that he's had, and I'm not saying that's because of me, but it's certainly giving him a bit of a different environment, is probably particularly between the Giro, the Tour and the Vuelta, to keep him focused and motivated on another goal, when it's pretty easy to, come down off the Tour and find it hard to remotivate. Well, we haven't seen any cyclists being able to do it for decades. So, we have a great relationship. Honestly, it's rarely quiet. And if I've run out of words or things to talk about, and so has he, then he's got a little speaker and he puts that on and we listen to music. And we honestly are pretty content, spending quite a number of hours together.
And what have you learned most from him? You've holidayed together.
Yeah, well, we were in Miami last couple of weeks ago for a week, and I told him how great that week was that I go and do there each year and do some charity stuff, and he came and got involved in all that and just really fitted in like a glove, which also was another indicator to me. Well, maybe we are. We're so different, yet we're quite similar. So I think it's just a good relationship that we've discovered later in our careers.
And Cam, did you know him really at all before you started training with him earlier this year?
Yeah, I knew of him. Of course, I knew him. I'd always spoken to him when we were racing together. We'd always talk during races, but I certainly wasn't friends with him, or have any contact with him outside of a race. But yeah, I always got along really well with him, and so I certainly wasn't concerned when Tim Kerrison rang me at 10 o'clock one night and said, can you get on a plane tomorrow and come to Brisbane and train with Chris for 10 days? I was pretty confident that we'd get along pretty well. Yeah, I've heard a lot about him as well. I mean, even Basso, who was my teammate, Liquid Gas, and he used to talk very fondly of him because we had a team director called Alberto Volpi, and he was a manager at Barlow World, and he used to talk about, and this was when Froome was really not going well. It was actually, I think we were at the Giro in 2010 when Chris got disqualified, and saying, what happened with him, and I remember Volpe then saying, God, that guy's got so much talent. If only they could figure out how to get it out of him, because as a kid, he just, at Barlow World, I mean, he made his debut at the Tour at 20 years old or 21 years old or something. And, so I'd always heard amazing things about him. And it was and everyone else, there's obviously going to be your skeptics and your trolls and whatever that say about this remarkable turnaround. Well, to me, it's bloody simple. I mean, Tim Kerrison, he started working with Tim, and all of a sudden, which was, I guess, after that 2010 sort of time, and it just clicked. He'd always worked his ass off. Like, he trained the absolute house down, but the results obviously weren't there, to back up that training. And I think I could relate to that because I was quite similar in rowing. I used to train so much as a kid and train harder than everyone else, and then, bomb out. And then I went and trained with this guy in Western Australia, an Italian, who was just the school of absolute hard knocks and used to just flog us to death. But I was the only one that could hand up to it. And that year won the world championships by a country mile, and first pick for the Olympic team, and then was taken off him and sent to another coach. And then it kind of fell apart for the Olympics. So, I was aware of a situation where you could work and work and work and not get anything for it. But then you get in a proper environment and it clicks. And seeing Chris made me realise that one day I have to get myself in front of Tim Kerrison. Like, he is the man that's probably going to be able to allow me to achieve something in sport. And at that point, I didn't know what it was. I was still cycling, but, whether it was in cycling or rowing or something else, it's turned out to be triathlon. So it's no surprise first with Bradley, and who started working with Tim, and now of course Chris. The guy's just a genius. I mean, how can you argue with that guy's pedigree? It's just incredible as a coach.
What have you learnt most from training alongside Chris Froome?
That we have an exceptional balance in the work that we do. So we're not training our asses off every day. We'll train exceptionally hard, but then the next day we'll enjoy a long ride. Now it's just an enjoyable ride, and 2 to 3 to 4 times a week we're just riding our bikes, and absolutely just having a ball, stopping and having a swim, or stopping for lunch in some weird town, or riding some different way up a climb just because Tim found a funky road and it goes to nowhere and we get lost. And it keeps it interesting. And I never used to do that. It was all every day out of structure, every day out of plan. You're always watching it. And what it does is that other day when you are training, you focus 100% on those intervals. Like, you are really committed to it and 100% into it, knowing that the next day you've literally just got to throw your leg over the bike and just see what happens. And I mean, we've been that tired at times that we've been passed by, cyclo-tourists with panniers on their bikes and not done a thing about it, going up a mountain. In the lead up to the Tour de France, because that happened to us in Tenerife a couple of times. We were so buckled. But, we had our sound system playing and we were content, and no one would believe it was Chris Froome. No one even stopped when that happened. They just ride straight past these couple of punters with some music going and looking like wannabe sky riders. So yeah, I think that's the biggest thing I've learned, is the ability to, or learn from him, is how well he switches on and he switches off, and also how well they can monitor his progression. They've just got the balance between, enough work and too much work, and what it takes to get him in shape. So, yeah.
when you're riding in a tour, right, what sort of like average kind of watts would you be putting out, and how does that compare to the bike leg in an Ironman?
So when you're riding on the front, or basically if it's a really hard day in cycling, and I'm around 70 kilos, we're now a couple of kilos heavier. So I was between 69, 72 cycling. Now I'm between 70, 74, just depending on what I'm doing and how my body's looking at the time. But 300 watts. If you're above 300, I don't think I ever saw. Maybe I saw three, as in for we're talking about a 4-hour plus bike race. 300 watts was a hard day. 310, and I finished at the front of a lot of hard days, and it was still around that power. Once you add in descents and everything else. So the average, in Kalmar, for example, averaged 315. Kona, unfortunately, when they put that chip thing on our bikes, or we had to carry it. I don't know what happened, but they got it synced up, and then the next day my power meter wasn't working. So I had no idea what I was, but I'm guessing I was around, that low threes again, because my heart rate was only like 150, which, is pretty low. It's about 7 or 8 beats lower than it was in Sweden. So, the overall, the average power that you're doing in an Ironman is very similar to a hard day cycling. And, you'll only get, maybe in a Grand Tour, you might get 2 of them a week. So you might get 6 in total in the whole race. And that's only because you've stayed at the front. If you ride in the group header, you're down around 250, 220, really low power. So, to be one of the strongest cyclists in Ironman, you have to be one of the strongest cyclists, I guess, in the world. The effort is very, very similar. The difference is mentally, you cross the line in a cycling race, you go and sit on your Rockstar bus and get a massage and have something to eat, where you have to get off and run a marathon. So, it's pretty insane. But recently, just looking at studying biological passport data compared to cycling. So Tim was really interested to see that. And it was really interesting to see how much an Ironman takes out of you in Kona, and the fall off, throughout a race. And it's significantly greater than even a Grand Tour. So
seriously,
which is interesting but it shows that, the importance of a Grand Tour is your ability to recover. So, you obviously have a level that you can operate at, and if you can, and there's enough easy days in between the hard days that Chris can, generally recover during a race. He's not getting tighter and tighter all the time. Like, there's a large part of the race where he is actually at a level, he's so fit that that was like an easy recovery day, and he'll come back the next day better. And so that's the key. You do that long, and if you get that recovery right, your body isn't going to break down too much. Whereas in an Ironman, you don't get any recovery after that ride part. You've got to go and run, and it's obviously a pretty extreme effort. So that was fascinating to realise, because we had no idea that it took that much toll on your body.
So now, knowing that, do you think you would reduce the number of races that you do next year?
I think we'll probably take that into account. Yeah. It also showed I was probably a little bit tired than normal. Going in even after even our big block at altitude, my hemoglobin and hematocrit weren't that high compared to what I have been after altitude. Probably 10% lower. So, but to then go 10% lower again was huge, if not a bit more, during the race. But yeah, it probably did show there was a fair amount of residual fatigue in my body. But hey, it was, we knew I had to race as much as possible so I could learn as much as possible. And even after Sweden, and we qualified, everyone was obviously excited, and probably no more so than Tim. Tim was just wrapped with what had happened. And I said, I actually entered, I think there was a 70.3 in the UK that I could have done, and there's a couple of other things as sort of a lead up race. And Tim said, you know what, like, let's just stick to the plan and do Wales. I mean, there's no comparison to an Ironman. Like, you can't. It's not the same. It doesn't take the same out of your body, and you don't have to deal with the same amount of things. So that was why we went to Wales, to try and, we did one good race, do a second good race, and back it up and get it right. And
but
and
blimey,
like
Wales is a tough one though, to back it up.
Yeah, but it's funny you say that, because in hindsight, we were talking the other day about next year and what might do, and whether I'd do another Ironman, how many Ironmans and whatever. And and Wales is so hard that you can't go very hard. So I didn't go that hard. The only time I went hard was at the swim, because I was desperate to try and prove that I could swim. So I swam with Harry and got out in like 47 minutes, which is the quickest I've done. And then on the bike, it was so challenging and technical and tough that you were just always in a controlled sort of state.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I got on the run, I had a nice big lead, so I sort of just ran a good solid pace for half the race, and knowing that they'd killed themselves trying to catch me, and I didn't have to run that hard after that. I could afford to cruise up the hills and sort of sprint down them, and really just have a good hard training day. If it had been a race like Bustleton, for example, or Arizona, like a flat, fast course, then you would have been inclined to have to go fast and hard all day, and that would have taken a lot out of you. So I think Wales was actually a good training race, but potentially on the back of all the other races I've done, obviously might have contributed to the fatigue factor a little bit. But you know what? I turned up in Kona in pretty good shape, considering. So it's all live and learn at the moment.
And you got your first Ironman victory.
Exactly, yeah, and I was able to win. So and win comfortably. I mean, not being arrogant or anything, but it was quite comfortable for me, because the course suited me so much. If there was ever going to be a course that would suit me, that was it. Technical, bad weather, all of that, and then a hard run that meant that it was hard for people to run you down. It really did play into my hands perfectly, and so I definitely think we'll probably look at going back, but ideally being in even better conditions so that you can handle the race and handle recovery really, really quickly and really easily. Because I do long runs that are 30k now, or I did since Kona. I've really upped my running mileage to try and improve that, and I'll be up doing 32 and 35, and running a marathon needs to become like nothing. I mean, you need to get off. There's all this stuff, people talk about it's too much, you should never run a marathon and do all this, or too much in a year. But the thing is, we have to get off and do it, and it has to be easy. I mean, Kipchoge's running 2 hours, and if you look at his program, he runs a marathon every week, leading into a big event. He starts out at 2:30 pace and he winds it down to 2:15. And a 2:15 marathon for him is a piece of cake. So I don't see any reason why, if I realistically think in Kona that one day I can run a 2:50, then I should be able to just go out and run a 3-hour marathon comfortably any day of the week, I'd really love to be able to be fit enough and strong enough that I could race as much as I did this year, but do it without the fatigue.
Which is almost
and win. Yeah, that'd be the best part. Yeah.
All right, I have a few more questions. How did conditions at Ironman Wales compare to the Giro in 2013 in the snow stage?
Oh yeah. Well, it was good. It was good practice. It was interesting in Wales because when we came into transition, everyone was in a hurry to get out on their bikes, and I was like, wow, and they all just ran out in their tri-suits. I had a jersey in my bag and a raincoat. So not only did I stop for a few seconds and put on an extra jersey, I also then, oh, wait, I'll just take my raincoat. And so I put that in my pocket as well. And there's all these guys just heading out in their tri-suits. I thought, you morons. So as I passed them, they were already shivering, and I was thinking, God, we're only going 35k an hour, guys. Aerodynamics isn't a huge issue out here today. So, yeah, it was It was windy, but it wasn't that bad. I didn't get cold at all, but that was because I had that extra layer on. And I was, I guess, mentally prepared for it. And I love those conditions. I mean, the harder it is, the harsher it is, the easier I find the race, to be honest, or able to make a difference. So, I really, really thrived in that. The Giro with the snow, I mean, yeah, that was just inescapable. That was just so bitterly cold. And I think from memory, yeah, we had a guy, Caruso, who was just on the verge of the top 10. So we ended up and Viviani was going for the points jersey against Cavendish. So there was points at the bottom of that final climb, the Tre Chimi or whatever it was called. And there was like this little cobbled town, and there was a little sprint on the other side of the little cobbled town at the top of like a 1K climb. So we were on the front, and I was on the front, lined out for Viviani for the sprint. And then obviously also to lead Caruso into the climb. And so I remember we did that, and then obviously Viviani got the points, and Cav came past and abused the crap out of me for doing that. And Caruso was gone, and we were still rolling up the hill. And I think it took about 4 or 5K on this snow climb where the sort of people, the real field started passing us, like it was strung out to buggery. So everyone was really not enjoying that. That was like a death march. So I think Wales was much better. Yeah. Yeah.
How do you reckon Wigger will get on with his switch to rowing? You've obviously been there, done that in rowing and cycling.
Yeah, so it's been great following Wiggo's progression. And, we used to talk about this. We started talking about back in 2013 about rowing, and, he was thinking about changing for Rio and decided against it. But I really pushed him, and I said, look, mate, you're more than capable of making this happen. So I'm so glad that he's done it. He's kept me updated throughout the year. I think in June he did 6:14 on the machine, and I got a message from him about it. Because I've done 6:08, so he was keen to know what my best was anyway. And the other day I got one say he did 6:04, so he was pleased to tell me that he'd beaten me, he's 92 kilos, but people don't realise, like, to go that hard, fast on a rowing machine, doesn't matter if you're 122 kilos, like that is serious engine, and he's obviously figuring out how to actually move. So he's got the championships this weekend. He's obviously plan is to go under 6 minutes, and if he gets anywhere near 6 dead, I had dinner with Drew Ginn the other night when I got back to Tassie, and he's obviously 3-time Olympic gold medalist, and his best was only a 5:57. Wow. So, if you're between 5:55 and 6:05 and a great athlete, you're more than capable of racing at that level. The GB team have obviously just got a bunch of big monsters that pull ridiculous rowing scores, but Wiggo is certainly already in that ballpark. And I don't doubt that he's going to make it. Everyone says, I wouldn't count him out, but no, I just can't. The guy's a champion. You don't have the pedigree that he has and not have something special. It doesn't matter what the sport is or what it is that he's focused on. He's doing everything he can to figure it out. And and it's really great. It's really great. Really great following it. So it'll be exciting this weekend.
Wow. And has he asked, have you shared any tips with him, or is he, I know James Cracknell has been working very closely with him.
Yeah, he's got James. He's a professional. He's got a coach and he trusts in him. But yeah, of course we talk about some of the things that I did, sessions and whatever, and also, sometimes as a coach, everyone's got a different sort of not so much of opinion, but there's little things like, I reminded him the other day that it's a machine, and so you're not going to beat a machine. So don't think that just because someone else goes out at 5:50 pace, you're all of a sudden just going to be able to do that on the day. Like, your level's your level. The best way to do a good ergo score is to be even splitted. And he said, he just went and did a 1,500 metre piece on that split without moving. Said it was comfortable. So he's not going to try and be a hero. Like, it's like a marathon. If you just go out, say you want to break 3 hours, or you reckon you can run 3 hours, if you run 4:15 pace or 7-minute mile, whatever, for the first 35K, and that feels easy, well, that's great, because then if you do have some juice left in the tank, of course you're more than capable of running 3:30 kilometres, you can probably do that for a couple of K towards the end and really empty the tank, and you're going to run a 257. But you're doing it all in the last 5K. But you try and do that in the first 5K and you'll end up running a 357. So, a rowing machine is very similar. And I'm sure that it was a similar way to he would approach an individual pursuit. So, that was probably the most in-depth sort of conversation we had. But he's on top of that. So, yeah, be exciting to see what happens.
That's exciting times. Right, was Richie Port's birthday party ride at 400k, was that a good laugh? 400k?
403. Yeah, well, Richie, 403. So Richie, just like, Chris, when we have spent many, many hours on the bike together, and that was one of, obviously, the longest ones we've had. But yeah, there was never a dull moment. We talked about this, that, and everything else. We rode side by side the entire way and talked the entire way. And the funniest part was he was meant to go out for dinner with his family, and I think we got halfway and he said, "Oh, Mum, I might be an hour late. We're in St Helens." And she was like, "God, what the hell are you two doing there?" And anyway, and then we got to the next day. She said, "Oh, Mum, we might have to make it takeaway." So sure enough, dinner became takeaway hamburgers and some beers back at his house at about 9:30 when we finally got home. Yeah, I think the funniest part was we got back to Launceston and it was 360, so we knew we had to keep going because we had to make 400. And Richie, we were both struggling, but my dad came out and met us with the car just so we had some lights because we had no lights. And
I take it 400 then had not been the plan.
No, definitely not. No, 200 was the plan, and then sort of went to 250 and then 3, and then once we got over 3, we knew we needed to get, probably to 4. So Dad gave us both a 1.5 litre bottle of Coke, and I sort of had a couple of sips, and I looked over, and Richie's was gone. Gone. Dad and I just looked at him, and we're like, where on earth did that go? And he also gave us a packet of wine gums or something each, and I opened mine and shared them with Richie, and Richie's like, no, I won't take these. And then he said, actually, no, I will. And he put them in his back pocket. And anyway, now we're behind the car because it was so dark, and Dad said you could just, because he's quite small compared to me, you could just see in his rearview mirror, Richie, every time he'd sort of pull his hand around, put it in his pocket, his sort of head would poke up a bit, shove a handful of lollies in his mouth, and then keep going. So, and then at the end he just pulled out this empty bag of lollies. So, yeah, it was just quite an interesting day. And certainly, very enjoyable. And, and after that, we both went pretty well, so it mustn't, probably doesn't hurt you.
Awesome. Cam, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. It's been really cool chatting, and sorry I took a little bit longer, but you carried on talking. It was ace.
Oh, that's good. That's good. As long as it's not too long and boring for everyone listening and they don't switch off halfway through, then I'm happy.
Oh, what a cracking interview. I love those ones where the person you're interviewing, despite being a world-class athlete, is just a really fun person to talk to, and just sounds like they can't believe all these amazing things have happened to him.
Yeah. We tried for quite a while to get it set up. Honestly, about 6 to 8 weeks, and I just thought, he really can't be bothered. But no, I think he was just super busy traveling in various parts of the world, and being in the States, and then being in Australia, and doing
training backside off.
Well, no, and then getting to the end of the season, basically. That was what we were waiting for. And then when he finally had a little bit of downtime, he was like, yeah, I'm really, really sorry it's taken so long. It's like, no, it's cool, don't worry. So yeah, it was really good fun to interview Cam Wurf. So hopefully you will have enjoyed that as well. And if you want a little special extra few bits of Cam Wurf, because I asked him as well, Rob, about breaking the bike course record at Kona. So if you want to hear about that, then we're going to have a little special patrons only podcast, aren't we?
We are, yeah. So with some of the interviews we've had already, and some that are upcoming still, we're going to put some extra bits in there to say thank you to the people who have supported the show financially over the last year and in the coming year. So if you want to listen to that and you're not already a patron, then you can sign up to be a patron. Just follow the link on the side of the page on oxygenaddict.com, or I think there's even a link now in the show notes on iTunes and things like that. So you can either make a one-off donation or you can sign up to put a little monthly donation through as well, and it was much appreciated by Helen and us to support us financially. So yeah, watch out for more bits and bobs coming for our patron special soon.
Awesome. So Rob, shall we move on then to a little bit of news?
News sponsored by Fuel by Cake 2. And Helen, here's the news. I've bought myself a £2 loaf tin.
Have you?
I was in Tesco's the other day, doing the old New Year, New Me kind of thing. Picked up a little blender and a vegetable chopper, and then I thought, £2 loaf tin. It's about that time in my life when a gentleman needs to own his own baking tin, Helen.
Absolutely. I love this. So you'll be able to make your Nan's date and walnut loaf.
That's exactly it. That's going to be
this is awesome.
This is going to be me popping my loaf cherry, as it were.
Great news. And Rob, you know what? If you did, it is January. I appreciate people might be on a little bit of a health kick and everything like that. And oh my God, you can have a lot of fun with a £2 loaf tin.
Hells, it's got fruit in it. It's basically a health food. Get the cake made. How do people buy a copy of Fueled by Cake 2 if they want one and somehow, Hells, haven't got one already? How do they go about getting themselves one?
Yeah, so head to fueledbycake.com and then you can buy a copy online. And I'd like to say a massive thank you to everyone already who has bought a copy, because we are well over the £5,000 mark in terms of money raised. I'm aiming for £15,000, so I do still have quite a few books left. So if you are in a tri club, or maybe you're a race director and you think, oh, what else could we give away as prizes? Then honestly, please do get in touch, fueledbycake.com, and it would be amazing. And basically it's a win-win, because you would be giving to charity whilst getting a little book back as well. So Rob, I've set Cardiff Try a challenge, which is to beat the number of copies purchased by Leeds and Bradford Tri Club, and also Knutsford Tri Club. So Cardiff Try, if you're in Cardiff Try, get on it and go and buy some copies, because you've got 35 to beat.
Wow. Who's that by?
That was definitely Leeds and Bradford Try.
35 from Leeds and Bradford. Nice work, you lot. That's impressive.
That was via Susie Richards.
Good work, Susie. Love it. Right, so some news then. Favourite bit of news to start with, Helen, has got to be, courtesy of triathlonworld.com, Gomez aims for World Championship.
Yep, he says he's going to aim to compete in Kona next October. There's been talk of it for a while, hasn't there? He was there. He wasn't there this year, was he? But he was there the year before. And you're like, oh, is he gonna do it in 2017? No, but it looks like he will be doing it in 2018.
Do you know who broke the news, Helen? We did.
Well, we did, because
we asked him at the end of Staffordshire 70.3. Do you fancy doing a full one? And he was like, yeah, maybe. Seems like a long way.
Yeah, well, he has told his so La Voz de Galicia newspaper that he wants to make his Ironman debut in the new year and then qualify for the Ironman World Championship in Hawaii. Obviously, he's not quite going to make his debut like this kind of new year, is he? It's more like sometimes June or maybe start of July. Yeah. So Nice, maybe Cairns, Frankfurt. I reckon he'd go for Frankfurt, don't you?
Yeah, I think there'd be some serious money on the line at Frankfurt for him to race there, wouldn't there?
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering, do they have some kind of agreement that the 70.3 world champion gets a free pass into Kona if he validates? Has all he got to do is complete an Ironman?
That's what it suggests.
Yeah. Mind you, having said that, he's not just going to poodle around and...
No.
He's going to want to go and...
No.
Deliver,
so because...
isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Because he won the 70.3 Worlds, then he basically has to finish.
Right, okay.
At least.
That'd be great to have him there, wouldn't it?
Well, it'll throw so much more into the mix, won't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, can't wait for that. So yeah, that is very, very exciting, Rob.
Exciting times indeed. Right, other news that we have seen. I'll tell you what, the Tim Dunn update. This almost made me cry. Did you see the video that he put on Twitter?
I didn't see. I haven't seen the video.
Right, so the tweet says, it's 3 months since I broke my neck in Kona and I'm Halo free today. So basically, he's still in like a, I don't even know how to describe.
I saw the picture.
Right,
A
so
neck brace?
well, yeah, it's like a neck brace attached to his chest and like the whole like American football kind of outfit. But he had it attached to a halo around his forehead, and on the video it zooms in, and whoever it is filming says, "How did they attach the halo to your actual head?" And he said, "They drilled into my skull and drilled Allen key bolts in." So in his head, he's got what I assume to be almost like, you know, the things that your bike bottle boss holder things get screwed into in the front of his forehead within the skin. And I mean, I knew he'd broken his back, and everyone knows that that's serious, but the video of it, he just looks so uncomfortable, bless him. Even though he's smiling and laughing and stuff, it really did bring tears to my eyes. He's just such a hard man.
Wow, I mean, he says long road to full recovery, doesn't he? But you sort of think, wow, that is pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know, when it happened, you sort of think, oh, he's out of Kona, but actually perhaps no one really realised quite how serious that was.
You're dead right. I think the thing that the video brings across is our take of it was, Tim Dunn's out of Kona, that's a bummer. Now, who else is in the race?
Yeah.
You don't go in to consider the fact that the poor guy's lying motionless at the roadside and then gets taken to hospital, and the whole thing that involves for him as a person.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
He has a good team around him, Rob.
Yeah, heal up, Tim. All the best to you. More news then, Hells, that we've had a little look-see for. The Sponge race team are looking for 2 new members, aren't they?
Yep, that's right. So it was the inaugural season last season, and this is the race team which they do a lot. They do Try for Good as well. So essentially, they are raising money whilst they're racing. So they are looking for 2 new members, and they've got a whole shebang of sponsors on the way, and they've already raised like a whole load of money, Rob, over £1,000. So they're going to divide it between the charities that they've chosen. So if you are interested, then go to spongeraceteam.com. And obviously Jane Handsome is behind all of that. The lovely Jane, who we had on the podcast a couple of seasons ago.
Yeah, she was she 2016 Ironman Age Group World Champion? Is that right?
I think that's right. Yep.
Yeah, so
and then,
get over and check that out.
Yeah, and the other little bit of the other little update we had is about the Southern Outlaw. And can you remember, Rob, at the end of Outlaw Half, which I did in Nottingham last May, we were chatting to the organisers and they were telling us about the Southern Outlaw. So basically they've had to kind of change things around a little bit because there's a whole load of stuff going on in London next year. So what we do know is that it is definitely going to go ahead in September 2018. But it is going to be a little bit further out of London, and they hope to launch it, I guess, over the next few weeks, basically.
Is it to do with like Prince Harry's wedding?
I think it might be
thrown a spanner in the works.
Yep.
Maybe Prince Harry wants to do it. Maybe he's going to come do it as part of a stag do.
Yeah, maybe.
Get him in.
Yeah, so they're going to have a load of meetings this month, and then they hope to open entries. I guess that would be after these meetings.
Yeah, so watch this space. Fingers crossed for a Southern Outlaw.
Awesome.
And do you know what else? I think that's just about everything for this week, isn't it?
Yes, it is. If you are listening to this before Wednesday, what date is it, Rob? On Wednesday? Today's the 8th, isn't it?
10th.
So before the 10th.
Wednesday the 10th of January 2018.
Yeah, then do let me know if you have any questions for Dave Scott, because I will be interviewing him on Thursday the 11th, and he is absolutely up for taking your questions as well. So let me know. I've checked it out. He's happy to do that. So send us your questions for Dave Scott, the amazing multi-world champion at Kona and Ironman, former coach of Chrissy Wellington, of course. Absolute pot of knowledge of all things Ironman.
You should call him that. He's an absolute knowledge pot.
Yes.
You'd like that. And similarly, I'm interviewing coaching legend Joe Friel in a week's time. So if you've got any questions you'd like to put to Joe, you can fire those through via Twitter. I think it's probably the best way to send them through, isn't it, Hells? We are at OA Tri Podcast on Twitter, or you can fire them through to help@oxygenaddict.com or helen@oxygenaddict.com, and we shall put your questions to Dave Scott and Joe Friel.
Awesome. And just a reminder that if you want to recognise the member for the Tribe Triathlete of the Month award, then do send in your nominations to helen@oxygenaddict.com, and we will pick a winner each month. We need them by the 25th of the month, and then we'll announce the winner in the last show of the month, and whoever wins will get a Tribe booster pack and a Tribe t-shirt, and we'll be running it every month for 6 months.
And indeed, and remember the code OxygenAddict1 at checkout at wearetribe.co will get you a six doodah sample pack for £1, which is a no-brainer. Get on there and get some energy bars in your back pocket for winter. And that's pretty much all from us, isn't it, Hells?
I think it is, Rob.
I am going to play the weather forecast this week and hopefully get outdoors on my bike. That's my aim. Take the new Cervelo out for a ride around in the outdoors.
Oh.
Do you know what? As well as a new bike, do you know what I bought? I bought a little sprinkler thing. It's like a pump-action bike spray washer.
Oh, really?
It's giving it looks like something from the Fireman Sam archive of nonsense. It's like a yellow, 1.5 foot tall yellow fire extinguisher with a pump-action handle on the top. So it's not electric. You pump it up and down, then you can spray your bike clean afterwards. So I'm still in that new relationship with the bike phase where it's getting clean after every ride at the minute. We'll see how long that lasts for.
Rob, was this thing, had you seen it in like a triathlon magazine or something?
The bike washer?
Yeah.
No, I think
was it in the cheeky section at Aldi?
I think it was probably more likely that. I don't even remember now. It's been in the cupboard for about 1.5 years.
Oh, okay.
So it might have been like a B&Q type thing, or I don't even know. It's awesome though.
And what's better? Why is it better than a hose and a sponge?
I haven't got a thingy to put a hose onto.
Okay, that's why it's better.
Yeah, I haven't got.
Okay, that's all right.
Kitchen back of the house, bike at the front of the house.
Nice. You allowed it.
Yeah, come on, Hals, don't be like that. I've got a new toy. It's a bike squirter.
I just wanted to.
Don't come along with your hose pipes here. This is like when you told me to stop sniffing. People are going to back you up again and start saying you told him. And you see what happened last time? Last time I ended up having bronchitis.
I was only inquiring.
Oh dear, right, let's wrap this up. Thanks very much for listening, everybody. You've been listening to the Oxygen Addict Triathlon Podcast. I'm Coach Rob Wilby.
I'm Helen Murray.
And until next week, have a great, safe training and racing week. Stay off the ice, look after yourselves. We'll see you again next week. Cheers, everybody. See ya.